Senate chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate chamber.
The Senate will come to order. The senators will take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators.
Good morning.
Good morning, guests. Good morning. The senators and those in attendance, if you are able, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Sherman Z. Logan, Jr. of First Unitarian Universalist Richmond of Richmond City. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Isabel Knight of Fairfax.
Let us prepare our hearts and minds as we enter into the sacred moment of prayer. Spirit of life and love, intimate and ultimate mystery beyond our naming, we invite you to join us as we begin today's session of the Senate. Today we come together in honor of the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., a visionary whose message of equality, justice, and peace transcends all barriers. In his memory, we commit to building a more just and compassionate world. Dr. King reminds us that the time is always right to do what is right. So may you take these words to heart as you consider the needs of the people that you serve. May you have the courage to speak the truth, the humility to listen deeply, and the wisdom to act for a greater good. Let this chamber be a fertile ground where the dream of a just and equitable society takes roots and flourish. And may your work here reflect the ideal Dr. King so elegantly preached: justice that uplifts the oppressed, peace that heals division, and love that casts out fear. In the spirit of collaboration, hope, may you move together with open hearts and steadfast resolve. May this be so. Amen. Shalom. Shalom. Ashe. Blessed be.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Friday, January 17, 2025.
The senator from Chesapeake, Senator Christy Newcraig, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates.
We do not have any, Madam President.
The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
Well, we have quickly arrived at the time we call our morning hour, and that is when we get to find out who all of you beautiful people are in the gallery. The procedure is that your senator will stand and tell us who you are, and if he calls she calls your name, please rise at that time, your organization's name, rise at that time, and hold your applause until after I've officially welcomed you, and then we'll do it right. And so with that, I do call on Senator Hashmi, the senator from Richmond City.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This morning we were honored to receive the invocation from Reverend Sherman Z. Logan, Jr. of the First Unitarian Universalist Richmond Church. And the Reverend Logan has been the senior minister for the First Unitarian Universalist Richmond Church since December of 2022. He is a graduate of the University of Virginia, as well as the School of Theology at Virginia Union University. Madam President, the First Unitarian Universalist Church is noted for its work in social justice, in its outreach to diverse communities, and its strong advocacy for those individuals who have no voice. And the work that the church continues to do is so central to the mission of the faith communities here in Richmond, and I always consider it my spiritual home, always delighted to join the congregation when I have the opportunity. I hope that we give the warm welcome of the Senate.
Reverend, thank you again for coming. And as the senator has said, you're advocating on behalf of those who have no voice. What else is there? And isn't that what Dr. King was about as well? Thank you for reminding us about that and for the sacrifices you make. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, today we have in the gallery somebody you know well, one of your interns who is finishing her time with you. Ruth Gakey and her father Todd are with us in the gallery. If you could offer them the warm welcome of the Senate. Ruth is a senior at Grace Christian School in Mechanicsville, and she has been with you doing constituent services, communications, research, and much, much more. She is on her way to Liberty next fall, and she hopes to come back after her time there to work in local government. If you could offer her and her father the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you for doing the job, yeoman's job, Ruthie. As you can see there, the work is great, and you have had an in-depth experience in all of that. And you see all that comes through and how it goes into, as they say, making the sausage and serving the people. And Dad, thank you for loaning her to us because we absolutely appreciated her work. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Senator Pokursky, the senator from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. It is my privilege today to say hello and welcome the American Federation of Teachers in the gallery. The American Federation of Teachers includes early childhood educators, public school teachers, paraprofessionals and school-related personnel, higher education, and they are people who work extremely hard for our children. I recognize the profound positive impact that our school staff have on students and their families daily and on the community at large. Their dedication to improving education, their advocacy for workers' rights, and commitment to broader issues are truly commendable, and it has been my honor to work hand in hand with them over the years. AFT Virginia plays a crucial role in supporting all of our education workers and ensuring that they have the resources they need and the workplace that can help them be successful. I thank them for their tireless efforts in creating a better future for our children and our Commonwealth, and I hope you join me in celebrating and welcoming AFT Virginia. Thank you.
Teachers, welcome to your Senate. We're so glad that you are here, and in fact, in recognizing all that you do in helping to educate our future leaders, I know that we have put in our budget so far 18% increase in salaries, and yes, it's going to have to be more and more, but we are glad that we're able to do that, and we're glad that you wanted to be in this profession in the first place. Thank you for your service. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Perry, the senator from Loudoun.
Good morning, Madam President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
The senator may continue.
Today, I'm honored to introduce Mr. Rob Fulser, who is here with us from Leesburg, Virginia, to celebrate the 50th anniversary, 5-0, of his service to us as a Senate page. During his time as a page, Rob served as a lead page on the Transportation Subcommittee and as a page for former Senator Charles Waddell. At the time, Madam Clerk was just beginning a lifetime of service with the Virginia State Senate and served as Rob's page supervisor and mentor. As Rob says, Madam Clerk helped a homesick young man navigate Richmond. Clearly, Rob's time as a page in the Virginia State Senate left its mark as he has continued to devote his free time to public service as an adult. Rob served the town of Leesburg as the chair and vice chair of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and has spent over 2 decades volunteering at Heritage High School in Leesburg. Today, we celebrate Rob Fulser's legacy of service, leadership, and mentorship, a journey that began 50 years ago right here in Richmond. Congratulations, Rob. And I just want to recognize there's someone else here with him today as well. Another former page, Rob's neighbor, who he encouraged to come down and apply for the page program and who did so and is also a former page. So today we would like to say thank you for your dedication to public service, Rob, and I hope we can all offer him, both of them, the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you for coming back, both of you. You know, sometimes we wonder, what will people say about us when we're gone? Well, I think you can hear some of it, and it's all good. Of course, you probably won't know about it, but it's all good. We're so glad that you decided, both of you, to be a part of this very important program where the young people get a chance to see up close and personal how their laws are made, and then for them to say, you know, I want to be able to do that too. So thank you. You're an example. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. The Senator from Norfolk, Senator Williams Graves.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, we have the men and young men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. If they would stand. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated is a historically African-American fraternity in its 114th year, founded January 5th, 1911, on the campus of Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. The fraternity has 250 members with over 700 collegiate and alumni chapters located in the United States and abroad. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated sponsors programs providing community service, social welfare, academic scholarship, civil rights, education, and mentorship here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and throughout the world. Today, they are hosting their 17th annual John T. Lanier Sr. Kappa Alpha Psi Virginia Legislative Day and the 3rd annual Donald McKeechin Luncheon. Please join me in welcoming the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated and their Kappa Leaguers, who are male youth that they mentor to help them become college educated, productive, and responsible citizens in our Commonwealth.
Well, the Kappas are in the house. No one say anything else. Gentlemen, how wonderful you look, how smart you look. And in fact, you are our future. And we're expecting big things from you. You are here on the day that we recognize a great leader, a very great leader, who broke so many barriers on your behalf. And it'll be your time to break barriers. We need you to continue to overcome and not look back. And so we are so glad that you are here, and thank you for helping shape the lives of these young men. Thank you for your sacrifice. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Somerville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction and a request.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, with the introduction, joining us in the gallery today, we should have a few young people that you all may recognize from before, including some you may not, like the one you just heard about who was here 50 years ago. But they're here to, many of them are here to relive and celebrate the 60 days they spent with us last year, back when we did have working toilets and showers, and relive the our traumatic loss at our basketball game, and many other memories they made. They're also down here to see their names on the wall, or shall it be the screen that we have now downstairs for you to look at pages. But I would hope that you could give the warm welcome of the Senate to all the former pages who've chosen to join us today for Page Reunion Day, which we normally celebrate this day.
Good morning, former pages. You know exactly what we're doing here and how we're doing it and when we're going to do it and what we're not going to do. And so you see some of the new pages, and I don't know if we have a mentor program for them, but they see that you survived, and so will they. And I'm sure you treasure the time that you spent here as pages. What an experience you received. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate.
Madam President.
Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. As for my request, I want to preface this by just saying it's not my fault, but I rise to ask unanimous consent to introduce a joint resolution at the request of the Supreme Court, which just confirms their appointment of the chairman of the Virginia Criminal Sentencing Commission. It wasn't given to me till late Friday, and it's something that has to be done this year in order for them to have a chairman going into next year. I'd hope we could allow me to introduce that resolution, even though it's now in excess of the bill limit and the filing deadline.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill as the senator has stated? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted, sir, to introduce your bill. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, January 20th, 2025. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 916, a bill to direct the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to convene a work group to evaluate data on the sale of dogs and cats by pet shops and to identify what information in a pet shop shall make available to a prospective dog or cat owner.
Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The bill essentially does is it allows Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to convene a working group to analyze the data that has already been collected at pet store shops and then to identify what is needed. And that group is to reconvene and report back no later than November 1st, 2025. And I hope it is in the interest of this body to go ahead and pass this bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 121, Commonwealth of Virginia Higher Educational Institutions Bond Act of 2025 created.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Senate Bill 1121 pass. And speaking to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, the bill authorizes the issuance of bonds in the amount of $206,085,243 plus financing costs pursuant to Article 10, Section 9C of the Constitution of Virginia for paying costs of acquiring, constructing, and equipping revenue-producing capital projects in institutions of higher learning of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the Treasury Board, by and which the consent of the governor to fix the details of such bonds, to provide for the sale of such bonds, and to issue notes to borrow money in anticipation of the issuance of this bond, to provide for the pledge of the net revenues of such capital projects and the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the Commonwealth for payment of such bonds, to provide that the interest income on such bonds and notes shall be exempt from all taxation by the Commonwealth and any political subdivision thereof. Again, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for parliamentary inquiry.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, because I know we have some newer members in here, and I'm supportive of the senator's bill, but this has an emergency clause on it. So, Madam President, is there a different vote required for emergency clause than other bills?
No, sir, unless the senator is asking for the 4/5, and that would be 32.
Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 762, a bill relating to salaries of boards of supervisors for certain counties.
Senator Mulcahy, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that Senate Bill 762 pass, and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Senate Bill 762 is like the bill we passed last year for cities. This would allow boards of supervisors to be able to raise their salaries based on populations. A couple of questions came up about this bill last week regarding whether this was necessary for boards of supervisors to be able to raise their salaries, and a couple of other questions which I had answered by the county attorney. Boards of supervisors do not need this legislation to raise their salaries. However, if they want to raise their salaries to, say, catch up to where the cities are, they do need this legislation. For instance, the city of Danville raised their salary once the legislation passed from $9,000 a year to, $10,000 a year to $34,000 a year. Yeah. We need this legislation. And so currently my Pittsylvania County, which Danville is in, the supervisors make $9,000 a year, and so in order to catch up with Danville, they would need this piece of legislation. There was also a question about if you were currently elected, would you need to go through another election cycle in order to get the raise? And for my particular Board of Supervisors, which asked me to introduce this legislation, they would not have to go through another election cycle because they're on staggered elections, and so they would not have to go through an entire election cycle in order to get the raise. Having answered all the questions that were asked, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 23.
Ayes 13.
36-1.
Ayes 13, noes 23. Rule 36-1. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 850, a bill relating to water utilities and wastewater utilities, eligible infrastructure replacement and enhancements, cost recovery.
Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 850 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 850 has to do with failing drinking water systems. Not sure if anybody's heard of those in Virginia, but basically what the bill does is it makes it easier for private utilities to recover costs relating to upgrades to private water drinking systems, but only those costs that relate to projects that enhance safety, reliability, or efficiency, or facilitate compliance with state or federal environmental requirements. It doesn't apply to, for example, if they want to expand their territory. So what the bill does, it basically takes what we currently have for the gas system, which we adopted in 2010, which is the SAVE Act, and allows water companies to come in between rate cases, apply to recover for these kinds of system improvements, safety improvements, compliance improvements between rate cases. Then when the rate case happens, it all gets considered as part of that. But as we all know, that our water systems around the state are having a lot of issues. We just got a report back in the Department of Health that said that we're looking at about $1.5 billion of compliance costs related to PFAS, lead and copper rules. And that doesn't even get to things like failing pumps or switches down the street or many other things. And this will make it easier, I think, for private water systems companies to invest in our public systems and take them over if necessary, make it more financially attractive to do so. The bill is a recommendation of the State Water Commission, where we heard it over the summer. I would hope we could adopt it so we can get some of these systems fixed up.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1307, a bill relating to additional local sales and use tax to support schools referendum.
The senior senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 1307, you'll probably be familiar with last year's legislation. Actually, this is a more simplified version and the substitute coming out of the Finance and Appropriation Committee. In the simplified version, we've simply stricken the existing counties and allow all localities to use the 1% sales tax for school construction. This has been a recommendation for years for the school modernization. We know we are billions and billions behind at the localities. We know at the state level we can't fund it all. Although it's good and great to see the investment that we have made, there's no way that the state alone can do it. As a reminder, this is sort of the most purest form of a sales tax increase because it has to go by referendum if the locality chooses to put it on the ballot. So it has to be approved by the voters. And so as a reminder, this is something that is not being imposed by the General Assembly on the locality. It's a locality option. And so it basically takes, right now we have localities of Charlotte County, Gloucester, Halifax, Henry, Mecklenburg, Northampton, Patrick, and Pennsylvania, and the city of Danville that currently have that authority. So only a handful of authority. But on a bipartisan basis across the Commonwealth, we've heard from this need time and time again across so many different counties, and appreciate the bipartisan support for this legislation and ask the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
Madam President.
For what purpose does the senator rise?
Madam President, having voted on the prevailing side by which we voted in favor of SB 916, I move to reconsider that vote so that members who did not have a chance to cast a vote are able to cast a vote.
What vote was that, Senator?
Madam President, it's for SB 916.
916. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 916 passed be reconsidered? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The vote is reconsidered. Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The bill simply directs Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to convene a working group to evaluate the data that has already been collected of the sales of dogs and cats and to report back by November 1st of 2025.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 3 through 10, Senate Bill 768 through 1310, be advanced to their engrossment in third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to move a bill from the block shall do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 3 through 10, Senate Bill 768 through Senate Bill 1310, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will now read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 768, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 787, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 807, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 808, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 841, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 843, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 846, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Craig.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted.
Senate Bill 885, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 888, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 892, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator Sturdivant, the senator from Colonial Heights.
Madam President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 913, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator Stanley, the senator from Franklin.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 965, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendments.
The senator from Eastern Prince William, Senator Carol Foy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 986, reported for the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 993, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 1043, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1055, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 1095, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 1115, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 1210, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator Pekarsky, the senator from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1228, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with an amendment.
The senator from Eastern Enrico, Senator Aird.
Madam President, I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is quietly agreed to.
Senate Bill 1282, Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 1309. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments. There is a floor substitute, with a substitute, and there is a floor substitute.
The senior senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask that that bill go by for the day. The substitute before you has some technical fixes of cross-referencing of code sections, and I want to make sure others have time to read that before adoption.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1309 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 1310. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
Again, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading, that is, all bills except Senate Bill 1309, which goes by for the day? All in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 748. Reported a bill to direct the Board of Housing and Community Development to convene a statewide advisory group to evaluate changes in the USBC addressing temperature regulation. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 778, Juveniles Adjudication of Delinquency. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 778 be passed by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 778 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 812, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act Landlord Remedies Noncompliance with Rental Agreement. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be advanced and engrossed its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced? Senator Van Valkenburg, the senator from Enrico. Your line is lit, sir. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 866, a bill relating to real estate board membership qualifications. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Senator Reeves, the senator from Orange.
Thank you, Madam President. I would ask that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 884, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, early termination of rental agreement. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1116, Uniform Trust Code expands definition of independent qualified trustee and qualified trustee. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Colonial Heights, Senator Sturdivant.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1118, a bill relating to registration by localities of cemeteries on private property. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
Senator Rome.
Madam
The
President.
senator from Western Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move adoption of the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move engrossment of the bill and advancement to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate Joint Resolutions on second reading. Senate Joint Resolution 247, proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Virginia by adding in Article 1 a section numbered 11-A relating to fundamental right to reproductive freedom. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections, and there are 2 floor amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Durant, the senator from Stafford.
Excuse me, Madam President, could I get the right temporarily?
Without objection, the bill goes by temporarily.
Senate Joint Resolution 248, proposing an amendment to Section 1 of Article 2 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to qualification of voters' right to vote, persons not entitled to vote. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections, and there are 4 floor amendments.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the amendments be agreed to. And speaking to the motion, I move that we waive the reading of the amendments, even though I like them to be read. Seriously.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor. This will be a recorded vote. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 4.
Ayes 35, noes 4. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the amendments be agreed to. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this is the constitutional amendment about voting. And as you look through the amendments, it looks like they're 4, but they're really 2 concepts. One, let me step back. As we talk about voting, we tend to talk a lot about our differences, but there are some things that we all agree on as we go through these processes. One is we all agree if you committed a nonviolent felony and your victims have been made whole, that you should immediately get the right to vote back. And these amendments do that. It says 2 things. If you commit a nonviolent felony, which would be something like grand larceny, then or drug possession, and as soon as you finished your jail sentence, if any, does not contemplate probation, and your victims have been made whole through restitution, then you would immediately get your right to vote back. Madam President, these amendments do a second thing, and that says if you commit a violent felony, then you would go through the process that is currently established in the Constitution. So if you kill somebody, or rape somebody, or abuse a child, or carjack somebody, then you would have to ask the governor to have your rights restored. So as we look at this process, there are things that we can agree on. We can agree that if you commit a nonviolent felony, you finished your time, your victims have been made whole through their restitution, then you get the right to vote back immediately. It just makes sense. But if you've committed that serious offense, one that we have determined is serious by this body, then those should be looked on in a case-by-case situation and not just blanket automatic. So, Madam President, I hope that we'll consider these amendments, and I hope that we'll be able to put them in the Constitution, because this is something that we can coalesce around in giving nonviolent felons the ability to vote, but still making sure that violent felons go through a process. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the amendments.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I hope that we will reject these amendments because permanently taking away the right to vote for people convicted of felonies started in the Jim Crow era as a way of keeping certain classes of people from voting. It's a racist policy that still haunts Virginia today. Attorney and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson, once said that each of us is more than the worst thing we have ever done. Yet here in Virginia, we continue to punish people forever, despite them having paid their debt to society. Taking responsibility and paying one's debt to society, while some people, say for example, someone who's committed 34 felonies, maybe, or never stepped a foot inside of a jail cell, never paid one debt of restitution or a fine, yet still remains free. This particular constitutional amendment warrants passage for the very reason that we continue to punish people despite the fact that they have indeed paid their debt to society. So we should pass this amendment and not pass these particular amendments.
The question is, shall the McDougall floor amendments be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. This will be a recorded vote. Those in favor of agreeing, again, to the McDougall amendments will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The amendments are not agreed to. Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. SJR 248 provides that every person who meets the qualification of voters set forth in the Constitution of Virginia shall have the fundamental right to vote in the Commonwealth, and that such right shall not be abridged by law. During period of incarceration for a felony conviction, a person cannot vote. However, as stipulated by this amendment, upon release from incarceration for that felony conviction, without any further action being required, that individual shall be invested with all political rights, including the right to vote. This amendment also provides that once a person has been adjudicated by a court of competent jurisdiction as having the capacity to understand the act of voting as prescribed by law, that person is also entitled to vote. And with that explanation, Madam President, I move that SJR 248 pass. Oh, I'm sorry, be engrossed in advance to,
The question is, shall Senate Joint Resolution 248 be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The Senate Joint Resolution 249, proposing an amendment to Section 15-A of Article 1 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to marriage between two adult persons, repeal of same-sex marriage prohibition, affirmative right to marry. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections.
Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that SJR 249 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Returning to Senate Joint Resolution 247, proposing a constitutional amendment, fundamental right to reproductive freedom, first reference.
Madam Chair, I move that we engross and advance to its third constitutional reading.
There are floor amendments.
The senator has not been recognized and is out of order. Senator Durant, senator from Stafford.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the reading of the amendment be waived.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Durant.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the amendment be agreed to, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the Virginia Code, Section 1-240.1 is clear. A parent has the fundamental right to make decisions regarding the upbringing, education, and care of their child. Full stop. This is a principle that's been recognized for generations as a foundational to our society. The role of parents is paramount. We are their first teachers, their protectors, and their role models. From the moment we discover we are pregnant, we nurture and care for their well-being, guiding them from birth and far beyond. Sometimes for some of us, maybe far too beyond. But for Madam President, this fundamental right has come under assault in recent years. Let us not forget that the Parents' Right movement, which is swept across this nation, was born right here in Virginia 4 years ago. This is not a partisan issue. This is a human issue. It's a moral issue. I want to share with you a story from a constituent and now a dear friend. In 1987, her daughter, who is now my age, 52 years old, was just 14 years old, and her parents noticed that she had become severely depressed. Fearing drug use, they searched her room and made a shocking discovery: a post-abortion survey tucked under her pillow. It was an abortion clinic asking how her experience was. Madam President, imagine the horror for those parents. Their daughter had undergone an abortion, an invasive, life-altering medical procedure without their knowledge and without their parental consent. They immediately sought help from mental health experts who recommended inpatient treatment due to her fragile state. And these parents were told they would not be able to speak or communicate with their daughter for at least 1 week. But within days, the parents received yet another call. Their daughter had developed a life-threatening infection due to that botched abortion. And here's the most unconscionable part, if you can rate that, is for that life-saving surgery she needed, their parents were asked to give their parental consent for that surgery and to pay a staggering $27,000. Madam President, I calculated that sum would be equal to $75,000 today. They were expected to clean up the devastating aftermath of a procedure they hadn't even known about, let alone approved. Today, we face a more alarming reality. Chemical abortions, commonly known as the abortion pill, are now the most prevalent form of early-term abortion. Yet without parental consent, parents are only finding out often when it's too late, when their daughters are hemorrhaging, when complications arise, and when they are rushed to the hospital for emergency care. Madam President, parental consent is not just about our rights. It's about safeguarding the health and well-being of our children, of our daughters. No parent should be left in the dark about a decision that could harm their child physically, emotionally, or mentally. Parental consent is essential to ensuring our daughters' safety and protecting the sacred role of parents in their lives. I urge this body to affirm this fundamental right and vote yes on this amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that the amendment be rejected, I move the committee substitute amendment be agreed to. And speaking to the amendment,
There aren't any committee amendments.
It's a floor amendment, Senator.
I move that we reject the floor amendment. I would like to speak to the amendment. Speaking to the amendment.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I think we all want our children to be involved in their, you know, we want to be involved in our parents' lives. Currently, our amendment, SJ 247, does not address whether or not parental consent is required or denied. In fact, it is silent on it, and it stands unless it is turned over by the court. SJ 247 ensures that families, not politicians, are in charge of their own health care decisions. This will eventually go to the voters to make the final decision. And I ask my colleagues to vote against the floor amendment.
President.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, I would ask if the senator from Northern Fairfax would yield for a couple of questions.
Will the senator from Northern Fairfax rise and yield for a question?
Madam President, I yield.
The senator yields. The senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, if I understood Senator from Northern Fairfax's comments, it's not that she opposes parental consent. Am I correct?
The senator from Northern Fairfax has the floor.
Madam President, my interest is in making sure that there is accessibility for individuals who need the care. And as a mother myself, I think it's very important that we have a close relationship. There are some instances where that is not appropriate, and we have laws on the books right now that allow for exceptions.
Madam President, further question.
Further question, Senator Boysko.
Madam President.
The senator yields. The senator from Rockingham.
So if the concern is not over the substance of our current parental consent laws, why not include it in the constitutional amendment to remove any question about whether it would be valid and withstand scrutiny?
Madam President.
The senator from Northern Fairfax has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. There is no time when politicians are better suited to make decisions for individuals than they themselves and their doctors.
Madam
Thank you.
President.
The senator from Rockingham.
Further question.
Further questions, Senator Boysko.
Madam President, I yield.
The senator yields. Senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, I would ask the senator from Northern Fairfax whether it is her belief that this constitutional amendment would be in conflict at all with our parental consent laws.
Madam President.
Senator Boysko has the floor.
Madam President, it is completely silent. In other states, in Michigan, in Missouri, and in Ohio, the same exact language was on their constitutional amendments, which were passed by strong bipartisan support in their voting referendum. None of those states have the consent issues been raised in any of those states. And again, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents have told us repeatedly that they want to be in charge of their own reproductive health care. We are not going to be with those individuals when they are making those decisions. They should be able to consult with their medical professionals and make the decisions for themselves and have the freedom to decide within their families.
Madam President, speaking to the floor amendment.
Senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, you know, this is simple. You either believe in parental rights or you don't. If you believe that a parent has any role, this constitutional amendment will foreclose it. It will foreclose it. I listened with great interest to the debate in the Privileges and Elections Committee. I listened to my friend from Northern Fairfax's description. I read the article that was in, one of our online newspapers, quoting some University of Richmond law professor expounding upon their view that this would not be in conflict with our parental consent laws. And I would say that that is exactly wrong. There are 36 states that have parental involvement laws. Virginia is one of those states. And the United States Supreme Court has looked at a challenge to a state's parental consent law and has said that a parental consent law does not violate the United States Constitution. But what the Supreme Court has not done is looked at the opposite, looked at whether a bar on parental consent would violate the United States Constitution. And what we have done here is made it very clear that there are no limitations that will survive scrutiny. And, you know, you look at this bill, this constitutional amendment, and it is very, very different from other constitutional amendments. It says that every individual has a fundamental right to reproductive freedom. It's all right. I get what the majority is trying to do there. A fundamental right is a term of art. It is a constitutional term. In the United States Supreme Court and the Virginia Supreme Court apply a strict scrutiny test to strictly scrutinize whether limitations on a fundamental right serve a compelling governmental interest. And that is the test which should be applied. And if that was applied, I might agree with the senator from Northern Fairfax that our parental consent law might withstand scrutiny under a strict scrutiny test. But this does not say that. This goes on to say that it states the test that will be applied, and it says an individual's right to reproductive freedom shall not be burdened or infringed unless justified by a compelling state interest, but then goes on to say, unlike any court I've ever seen, it says that a state's interest is compelling only if it does not infringe on that individual's autonomous decision making at all. At all. So this is saying any restriction, not just any restrictions that serves a compelling state interest, but any restriction cannot serve a compelling state interest. I would point out that even if that it doesn't say that a restriction that is reasonable or is narrow wouldn't violate the strict scrutiny test. It says any restriction. And, the courts have looked at parental consent laws and have said, they do serve important governmental interests. They protect minors from sexual victimization. Courts have said that they protect minors' psychological and physical well-being. They've said that they protect minors from their own immaturity and ensure that they engage in fully informed decision-making, that parental consent laws withstand scrutiny under the strict scrutiny test because they promote parents' right to custody, care, and control of their children. Those aren't my words. Those are courts' words in looking at parental consent laws. But those considerations will not be enough under the language of this constitutional amendment because it expressly states that these are not to be considered if they interfere at all with a child's, a minor's, autonomous decision-making. I would point out that, you know, the comments of my friend suggest that we're inviting a challenge. Why invite a challenge? Why not put this in and make it clear? Make it clear that it is okay for us to maintain our parental consent laws. I would take issue with the suggestion that in other states, it's all been fine, that these have survived. Missouri, let's take Missouri. Missouri did pass a constitutional amendment, and I know that my friends on the other side of the aisle don't necessarily agree with the Missouri Attorney General, who's a Republican, who wrote a letter to the governor of Missouri, who's also a Republican, suggesting that they probably would withstand scrutiny, probably would. Well, that's not a decision by a court adjudicating a challenge. There is one state in which there has been a challenge to a much more narrowly drawn constitutional amendment, and that's Montana. In Montana, in 2024, Planned Parenthood filed a challenge to the parental consent laws of that state following that state's adoption of a right to privacy constitutional amendment, much, much more narrowly drawn than this. And you know what? The Supreme Court of Montana held that the parental consent law would not withstand scrutiny and ruled that it was unconstitutional. So, if you want to invalidate our parental consent laws, if you do not believe that our parental consent laws serve a compelling state interest, then vote against this amendment. If you believe that those laws and the rights of parents and the considerations of children ought to be protected, then vote against it. But I would suggest that this is inviting a challenge. We know the litigant in that Montana case has been a very aggressive litigant in Virginia as well. And this is inviting a challenge to roll back even the most reasonable protections that we have adopted on a broad bipartisan basis. I don't think we want to do that. So I would hope that we would stand up for families, stand up for parents, and stand up for our children by adopting this amendment to make sure that we don't just, as a blanket matter, override the rights of parents and children.
The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and I adopt wholeheartedly what the senator from Rockingham has just said and defer to his analysis of the laws and the status of these cases throughout the country and what they do on parental consent. But aside from the legal analysis, what about our common sense as parents of children, as a parent who has a daughter who may be 15, 16, 14, 13, 12. That child under the age of 18 cannot get a body piercing or a tattoo without parental consent. And we, as the gentle senator said from Northern Fairfax, this amendment is silent on parental consent, which has been in our code for a number of years, which the people of the Commonwealth have followed and wanted. And we are now going to pass a constitutional amendment that is silent on that issue, that leaves it up to the court, to some court. How many people are in our Supreme Court? 7, 17 or 20 or 25 on the Court of Appeals. 7 in the Supreme Court. We're just going to pass a constitutional amendment and leave it willy-nilly to a court of 7 people to determine whether or not parents in the Commonwealth of Virginia have a right to know if their daughter is going to a doctor or a hospital or taking something to end the life of a baby that she is carrying. Now is the time to address that issue. This amendment addresses that issue. Do not fail this moment. Please accept this amendment.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is,
Madam President, parliamentary inquiry.
the senator may state it.
Is the question not a motion, was not the motion to pass the amendment?
That is correct, sir. The chair misspoke. And so, the question is, shall the Durant amendment be adopted? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. This will be a recorded vote. The question is, shall the Durant amendment be adopted? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The Durant amendment is not adopted. Chair now recognizes Senator Jordan, the senator from Isle of Wight.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the reading of the floor amendment be waived.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the amendment is waived. Senator Jordan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the amendment be agreed to, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The floor amendment you'll see before you, I would hope that we would look through without partisan eyes, and we look through with humanity. In the event that an infant is born alive after an abortion procedure, this amendment would ensure medical care, basic humanity, and everything that is afforded to any one of us that are standing in here today. I hope it would also provide clarity for those in the medical field, but most importantly, an infant is entitled to every single piece of health care and access to it that everyone in this chamber should. I hope this would be a simple amendment. I hope it would be nonpartisan, and I hope that it would be the will of this body to adopt the floor amendment.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The patron may not be aware that there's already a law that clarifies that this is illegal. It is in 18.2-7.1.1. It was enacted in 2003, so it's already in our code.
Madam President.
For what purpose does the senator from Rockingham rise?
I would ask the senator from Northern Fairfax if she would yield for a question.
Will the senator from Northern Fairfax rise and yield for a question?
Madam President, I yield. Always happy to speak to my colleague from
The senator yields. The senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, I would ask if the senator would agree that the Constitution and a constitutional amendment will always trump an existing statutory provision. So if there is a statute that is found to be inconsistent with this language, it would be the Constitution that prevails, not a statute.
The senator from Northern Fairfax has the floor.
Madam President, I would respond to my colleague from Rockingham that this is not how abortion works. This is fear-mongering. Again, our constitutional amendment enshrines the right for reproductive health care. That means IVF, contraception, legal abortion care, miscarriage management, caring for ectopic pregnancies. This does not happen. This is fear-mongering, and I move that we reject the amendment.
Madam President, further question.
Further question, Senator Boysko. The senator yields. The senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, I may not have been clear in my question. The senator from Northern Fairfax cited a 18.2 code provision as a reason why this amendment to this constitutional amendment is not necessary. My question is, would the senator agree that the Constitution, if it is in conflict with a statute, the Constitution always prevails?
Senator Boysko.
Madam Chair, I will just restate my issue that I said a few minutes ago. This is not how abortion works. This is fear-mongering and trying to divert from the fact that the majority of Virginians want us to pass a Reproductive Health Care Act in our Constitution to protect their freedom and ability to make the most personal and private decisions for themselves. And I move that we reject the amendment. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Madam President, speaking briefly.
Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Madam President, I would respectfully submit that is how the Constitution works. It is the final word on the law. And this bill, this amendment simply attempts to protect the life of a baby. The life of a baby. Previously, we were talking about children who are seeking abortions and their families. This is a baby. And if we can't agree on protecting the life of a baby, I don't know what we can agree on. The Constitution, the language we are about to vote on, I guess tomorrow, if it does not have this amendment in it, it doesn't matter what's in 18.2. It doesn't matter at all. Because if this language prevails, lives of babies will be put at issue. If you want to protect these children, there's no harm done in adopting this amendment to this constitutional language.
Senator Surabel, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking against the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just so we're clear, the Constitution does trump code. That's obvious. That's been the law for 200 years. The reality of this amendment is that it attempts to put in the Constitution what this body has rejected in statute repeatedly for the last 3, 4, 5 years. In fact, there's bills pending this year. There are bills passed last year. There are bills passed the year before. You're trying to put things in the Constitution that we can't even get in the code. And not everything belongs in the Constitution. The Constitution already has 28,000 words. We actually have a below-average Constitution in terms of words. But just because something's in statute or you want it doesn't mean you put it in your Constitution. What this amendment does is codifies existing law under Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Well, actually, it codifies Roe v. Wade is what it does. And it basically sets Virginia law exactly where it was pre-Dobbs. And you know, if there's no reason we need to put more in the Constitution than that, we need to, all we're trying to do is just reset the law to where it was when Dobbs came down. That's all this does. And we should reject this amendment because we just don't need to put every single last thing in the Constitution, especially stuff that the General Assembly doesn't even pass. And I appreciate, how people feel about the policy. It's obviously a very personal policy. A lot of people take issue with the policy representing this amendment, but this body hasn't even adopted that. It's just not an appropriate amendment to this constitutional amendment.
The senator from Botetourt, Senator Head.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
I would hope that we would accept the amendment, and just as a part of that, to clarify the science behind the way abortions actually do work, since it's been alleged that this is not the way it works. I would like to call attention to the fact to the whole body that there was National Institutes of Health actually references on their website a study that was done in 1989 where they wanted to see what happened in late-term abortions and the results of live births. And what they determined was that in that study was a cohort study of 13,777 second trimester abortions occurring in hospital settings. And out of that number, they determined that 1,541, or 11.2% of those, led to a live birth. We had better be very, very careful what we do, because whether it's legal or not, my fervent belief, my knowledge is that this is one that if we get this wrong, and failing to accept this amendment is getting this wrong, there will be, I believe, eternal consequences. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair now recognizes Senator Jordan.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the patron yield to a question? The patron of the constitutional amendment.
Senator Boysko, will you rise and yield for a question?
I yield.
Senator Boysko yields. The senator from Isle of Wight has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry. Senator, would you say that after everything you just stated, would you agree after line 34 that this indeed does indicate live birth?
Senator from Northern Fairfax has the floor.
Madam President, that's not abortion care. And for the thousands of women who have nearly died or lost their lives in pregnancy, I would suggest that this constitutional amendment will protect their life and safety and allow the doctors to care for them using medically proven science.
Would the patron please yield to a second question?
Will the senator from Northern Fairfax yield?
Madam President, I yield.
The senator yields. Senator from Isle of Wight has the floor.
Would the senator from Northern Fairfax agree that this amendment does not speak to any other type of abortion care for the person? This speaks specifically to the legal understanding of a live infant.
Senator Boysko has the floor.
Madam President, this, as Senator from Eastern Fairfax County noted, this is reflecting our current policy that we have had since, I believe, the 1960s. There is no change in it. It still allows some regulation to occur in the third trimester, but it gives the doctor the ability to care for his patient. We have seen in other states where women have died on gurneys. We have seen in other states where children who were forced to carry a pregnancy died because the doctor was afraid to care for them. This bill reflects what we have had on the books in Virginia for decades. For decades.
Madam President, speaking to the amendment.
The senator from Isle of Wight has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It is a scary moment that I stand in a body that I've always thought to be deliberative and thoughtful in everything that we do. Hearing the term fear-mongering when it comes to the thought of a live infant is pretty unconscionable to me, to be honest. I hope that the work that we do in this chamber, that we send to the voters, is thoughtful in that regard. And today, I must stand here in shock as something as simple as offering health care that we would offer to the mother, that we would offer to anybody in this body or to their children, just a simple chance at life after a live birth. I stand in disappointment, but I'm hopeful that if we truly do a little bit of soul searching before this amendment is voted on, that you will truly think about the term live birth and infant, not abortion care. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Stewart, the senator from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not an area I usually speak on, but I was listening to the debate back and forth, and when I listened to the senator from Northern Fairfax who talked about the doctor's ability to care for their patient, and I get that and I understand that, and that's a compelling argument. But when I read this amendment, what it says to me is the doctor's able to care for their patient, and if that, in that procedure, but if that child is born alive, then that child has to be treated as a person. And I just ask, what's wrong with that? I think that's all this says. If in the course of that treatment, abortion, whatever that treatment is that the doctor's providing, if that child is born alive, you have to treat that child as a person. I just don't think there's anything wrong with that. I hope we can support the amendment.
The question is, shall the Jordan Amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. This will be a recorded vote. Those in favor of the amendment will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 19, noes 21. The amendment is not adopted. Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we engross and advance to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the resolution now be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is engrossed in advance to its third reading. Thank God.
Supplemental calendar number 1, Monday, January 20th, 2025. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 7, Senate Bills 770 to 1302, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles on the uncontested and regular calendars, Senate Bills, pages 1 through 7, 770 through Senate Bills 1302 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Sturtevant.
Madam President, I move that all the bills be passed by for the day.
Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Again, Senator Sturtevant. I'm sorry, Senator, I was very quick. Madam Clerk.
Uncontested calendar, Senate joint resolutions on first reading.
Now, Senator Sturtevant.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate joint resolutions on first reading on the uncontested regular calendars, pages 7, I guess just page 7, Senate joint resolution 250 through 264, that the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendar, page 7, Senate joint resolution 250 through Senate joint resolution 264, be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is waived. Senator Sturtevant, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that all the bills or resolutions go by for the day.
The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions will go by for the day. Senator Sturtevant.
Madam Clerk, does that complete our MLK Day calendar?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today is a holiday that honors the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who dedicated that life to peace and equality. The irony of this day is not lost on me. The jarring juxtaposition of January 20th, also marking the second inauguration of the 47th President of the United States. Dr. King's vision was rooted in justice and harmony. He envisioned a beloved community, a society built on mutual respect, equity, and shared humanity. Despite the injustices he faced, Dr. King peacefully advocated for a world where character took precedence over skin color, where economic hardships did not dictate one's destiny, and where systems of oppression could be absolved by building bridges and not erecting walls as obstacles to progress. Recent political actions, rhetoric, and desired policies, as outlined in the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, directly oppose the concept of a beloved community as Dr. King envisioned. Dr. King believed in equal opportunities for all, particularly in education, which he viewed as the foundation for an equitable and prosperous society. However, today we are confronted with efforts to censor and privatize public education, to preserve privilege through ignorance, and leave students vulnerable without the knowledge and resources required to succeed. This is very reminiscent of laws created during slavery to not allow slaves to learn to read and write. Dr. King believed that economic justice was inseparable from civil rights, as true equality cannot be achieved without economic equity. He advocated for fair wages, the rights of workers, and policies that would lift individuals and families out of poverty. Yet we are ushering in a new era that prioritizes adding to the wealth of the rich through tax breaks and corporate interests over the livelihood of working people. Policies like those outlined in Project 2025 threaten to dismantle social safety nets, restrict workers' rights and child labor laws, erode the rights of women, voting rights, and erode protections for marginalized groups, placing more of an economic burden on already heavily burdened groups. Further, Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolence and respect stands in stark contrast to the divisive rhetoric and actions of the incoming new administration. Dr. King's teachings of unity have been replaced with the encouragement and normalization of hate groups and bigotry. Just take a look at the hate map published annually by the Southern Poverty Law Center at the proliferation of such groups. Instead of fostering respect and equality, we see policies that strip basic human rights from groups and individuals, policies that seek to further segregate and divide us rather than to unify. These policies directly undermine the very progress that Dr. King sacrificed so much to achieve. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, he stated clearly that he was in Birmingham because injustice was there. And a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The reason we commemorate him today is because of his strong belief in the natural rights articulated by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. Although Mr. Jefferson was not referencing some of us who sit on this very floor today, some 187 years later, Dr. King paid it forward from a jail cell. If we sit silent, those very rights could be stripped from us. We must ask ourselves, how do we honor a man who gave his very life for equality while inaugurating one undermines the very foundation of those same principles? Today, I urge you to not just reflect on Dr. King's dream, but to uphold it. Let us honor him through action and advocacy that advances justice for all. Let us strive to create policies that reflect the values Dr. King lived and died for, policies that ensure every child has access to a quality public education, policies that promote fair wages and economic opportunity, policies that protect voting rights and civil rights, policies that allow individuals to make their own personal decisions and choices about health care and whom they marry, policies that foster understanding rather than division and dissension. May the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspire each of us to create the beloved community for which he dreamed one day would exist. Madam President, I ask that when we adjourn today, we do so in honor and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Chair recognizes Senator Reeves, the senator from Orange.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate today marks a historic moment, a turning point in the story of our great nation. We stand on the threshold of a new chapter in the American journey as we celebrate on our side the election of Donald J. Trump as the 47th President of the United States. This victory, hard-earned and resolute, is not just a triumph of one man, but the triumph of a movement, one driven by the spirit of American people. It is the voice of citizens who have spoken clearly and decisively, choosing a leader who has promised to restore strength, pride, and opportunity to this land. President Trump's election represents more than just a political shift. It represents the will of a nation that is deeply committed to its values, its future, and its destiny. This victory is for those who believe in the promise of America, who want to see our economy thrive, our borders secure, and the people united. It's a victory for the working men and women, the entrepreneurs, the farmers, the teachers, the soldiers, and everyone who calls this land its home. In the face of challenges and adversity, President Trump has remained as steadfast in his belief that America is the greatest nation on earth and that its best days are ahead of us. He has never wavered in his commitment to put America first and to protect our sovereignty and to ensure that every American has a fair shot at success. This election was not without its debates, its divisions, its difficult moments, but what it proves above all else is that the American spirit is unyielding. We as a nation are resilient, we are strong, and we are ready to face the future with optimism and determination. As President Trump takes office, let us remember that this victory is a call to action. It's a call to rebuild, to renew, and to restore the greatness of our nation. The work ahead will not be easy, but with a bold vision, unwavering resolve, we will achieve the extraordinary. To President Trump, we say congratulations on your historic victory. We trust your leadership will guide this country towards even greater prosperity and peace. The road ahead is long, but with your leadership, we are confident that America will rise to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And to every citizen who participated in this election, whether you voted for President Trump or not, Remember that we are all Americans, our unity, our strength, and together we will continue to make America the shining beacon of liberty and hope that it's always been. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Head, the senator from Botetourt.
Madam President, I rise for point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to also honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, a man whose life and work forever changed the course of our nation. On this day, as we reflect on his profound contributions, we're reminded of his unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and the belief that all men and women are created equal in the eyes of God. Dr. King's message transcended party lines, geography, and race. He understood that true equality is not just a matter of law, but a matter of the heart, a call to treat every person with the dignity and respect they deserve as children of God. It's a call that we as public servants must continue to answer, not only in words, but in actions. Through his leadership, Dr. King showed us the power of peaceful resistance, the strength of love in the face of hatred, and the importance of standing firm in the truth, even when it's difficult. His work remains unfinished, and it's our responsibility to carry his vision forward, ensuring that all Virginians, all people, regardless of their race, are afforded their well-deserved opportunities to preserve life, to experience liberty, and to pursue happiness and success. As we honor Dr. King today, let's renew our commitment to work together across party lines, across differences, so that his dream of a truly just society where we are all judged only by the content of our character becomes more than an aspiration, but a living reality. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Mulcahy, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
I knew if I ever said that, I'd get my P's all messed up. In Jamaica, I feel like a human being, said Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. The Gleaner newspaper reports that King was so comfortable in Jamaica that he returned in 1967, where he completed the manuscript, which became his most important book. Where do we go from here? Today is Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, honoring his legacy. Dr. King is revered by so many, not just in the U.S., but around the world. I urge my fellow Virginians and all Americans to take time and remember Dr. King's dedication to equal opportunity for all through nonviolence and love.
The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. It's that time of year again. Massey Cancer Center needs our help. As you know, for a number of years now, we have pledged to raise $10,000 to help the good folks here at the Massey Cancer Center to help fight one of the truly toughest diseases that we have to deal with. And this is all in relation to the basketball game that will take place between the House and the Senate. Our coach is ready to go. The question is, are your checkbooks ready to go? If we could get $250 from all the members here, that's $10,000. I will be reminding you periodically, but you can drop them off at my office and bring them to the chamber. We'll take care of it. And we were 100% last year. Let's do it again. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Monday, January 20th, 2025, the Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A, the GAB. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Public Education will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room C, GAB. Senators Falkenberg, Locke, Peake, Pekarsky, and Craig. The General Laws and Technology Subcommittee on Gaming will meet at 4 p.m. in Senate Room B, GAB. Senators McPike, Locke, Reeves, Pillion, Head, Van Valkenburg, and Carol Foy. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will meet at 4:30 p.m. Senate Finance and Appropriations Room, 13th floor, GAB. Senators Marsden, Favola, Stewart, Reeves, and Serville. The Northern Virginia Delegation Caucus will meet at 5 p.m. House Room 1000, 10th floor, GAB. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Resources will meet at 7:30 a.m. Senate Room A, GAB. Senators Locke, Deeds, Locke, Lucas, Deeds, Locke, and McDougal. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the Senate Finance and Appropriations Room, 13th floor, GAB. Senators Serville, Marsden, Eben, McPike, and Pillion. The Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources Subcommittee on Companion Animals will meet at 8 a.m. Senate Room C, GAB. Senators Favola, Stanley, and Prakarsky. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m. Senate Room A, GAB. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:15 a.m. in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol, and the Republican Caucus will meet at 11:15 a.m. in Senate Room 2 of the Capitol.
Chair calls on Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn in honor of one who was called the Gem Major for Justice, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And I move that we adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate now stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow in honor of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, the Reverend Jr.
Senate Chamber. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate chamber. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.